Okay, so we've done some brainstorming right now. What brainstorming does is it kind of focuses our mind into the new unit that we're going to be learning and reading about. So we're going to get into the first mini lesson. Before we get into the lesson, what we're going to do first is we're just going to do a pre-read. A pre-read means we're just going to read the piece of text that we're supposed to. So open up to page 4. For the title, it says Fair Weather Clouds. So there are 2 photographs of fair weather clouds. These clouds look white and fluffy. These clouds are dark. I find that interesting. Up in the corner, as always, it says it's the type of genre of text, and it says poetry, free verse. So this is a poem, which is kind of fun because April is actually Poetry Month. So it's perfect that we're reading this right now. The title is called Fair Weather Clouds. We're just going to read it. If you feel like you need to underline something, go ahead and start underlining right now. We're just doing a pre-read, which means we're going to read it straight. Fair Weather Clouds by Carmen Carols. Here, after the thaw, these plains, a sea green, encircle me. Now I tilt my head back, splay my hands, pressing into the fresh waves of prairie. Above the sky, the blue field is thick with piles of cumulus cotton, ripe for picking, stuffing, and quilting, heaping and billowing about and still bright and clean in the sun. Later, when they grow gray and nimbus, the rain will come. So as I was reading, I noticed a couple of words that jumped out to me that I didn't understand, so I circled those. I underlined a couple of key phrases, and then I noticed there were some numbers in the wording. We're going to get to that later. What we're going to do next is something called imagery. So let's go. Okay, so the focus of today's lesson is on the imagery in the poem. So imagery means what image does the poem paint for you? When we're talking about poetry, we're talking about the type of language that it uses. Language means the sentences and the words that the author, Carmen Carols, chooses in order to kind of paint us a picture. So when they paint us a picture, they use sensory detail. So with imagery, we have sensory detail. Sensory detail. What sensory detail does is it appeals to the 5 senses. So there are 5 senses that we experience every day that the poem can tap into and kind of explain. Okay, so of the sensory details, there are 5. We have sight, which is the color, the size, and the shape. Number 2, we have smell through the nose. Smelling, do you smell the cookies? Do you smell the baking, flowers? Is it a good smell? Is it a bad smell? Third we have is taste. Tasting with your tongue, tasting with your mouth. What taste can you imagine tasting? Taste of chocolate chip cookies, the taste of pizza, or maybe the taste of something gross like broccoli, cauliflower. Number 4 is sound, so things that you hear. And number 5 is touch. What do you feel? How does the paper feel? How does your hair feel? How does your skin feel? So those are all the 5 senses. Okay, now we're gonna go find sensory details in our story. Turn to this page in your homeschool packet, and we'll read the directions. It says, read fair weather clouds and look for words or phrases that create sensory details in your mind. What do you visualize as you hear and read the poem? So the first line says, what imagery from the poem appeals to your 5 senses? Now, I've just explained what the 5 senses are. So what we're going to go back and do is we're going to go back and find examples where you can see things, where you can smell things, taste, you can hear sound, and you can touch. So go back and reread. So after rereading my poem, what I've done is I've highlighted or circled some things, some sensory details. I found some sensory details for sight and touch. The sea green, meaning the grass that is green, that's describing the color. The author is pressing their hands into the grass, so that's touch. Pressing means you press and touch. There's a blue field in the sky. The blue is the color of the sky, so that is another sight detail. And they describe the clouds as cotton, as white. As you can see, the white and cotton is a touch. It's nice and fluffy. Billowing can be a hearing sound, a sound to hear. Billowing means it's kind of fluttering in the breeze. There's kind of a wind happening. And then the clouds grow gray. So that's a new type of sight because it's describing the new color of the clouds. Okay, so the next part of your packet page says, choose one line from the poem that appeals to you. Draw a quick sketch of what it makes you visualize. So the purpose of the poem is the purpose of the sensory details and imagery is so you can visually see what's happening without even looking at pictures. So go ahead and cover up the pictures and just look at your text, okay? So what things do you see based off of the line? So what I want you to do is copy and paste using quotation marks one line from your text and then draw what you see. Go ahead and get started. And the last thing you need to do is answer the question on the bottom. It says, which lines from the poem describe the weather changing? When you're done answering that question, type it on your homeschool log.